Just half a century ago in the US, if you were a black person taking a bus or a train with everyone else to work, it would be illegal. CGTN's Jim Spellman talks to an urban planner about the profound influences of racial segregation in the US.
For many Americans, access to good public transportation is essential to a good life.
But far too often, minorities, especially African Americans, don't have access to reliable and efficient public transportation.
That can mean the difference between getting ahead or falling behind. Dan Reed is an urban planner in the Washington, D.C. area.
What does it mean, especially to communities of color, to not have access to good, reliable mass transportation?
One of the leading indicators of somebody's ability to climb the economic ladder is access to transportation. And so when you compound that on top of a legacy of segregation and discrimination in this country, it becomes just another contributor to the racial wealth gap.
Mass transit has long played a role in the fight for racial justice. A key moment in the U.S. civil rights movement happened on a city bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955.
It all started when Mrs. Rosa Parks wouldn't give up her seat on the bus to a white man.
As far as I can remember, during my lifetime, I resisted the idea of being mistreated and pushed around because of my race.
Her act of defiance led to a bus boycott in Montgomery. A year later, buses there were integrated. Martin Luther King Jr. called urban transit a genuine civil rights issue.
The first stations in Washington, D.C.'s Metro Rail system opened in the 1970s.
The system opened with an optimistic, almost utopian vision, but focused heavily on moving mostly white workers to jobs in the city center.
Living in the suburbs will be easier. A quick, quiet, air-conditioned ride puts you downtown for work.
Is it an accident that so often it's communities of color that don't have access to good mass transit?
It is no accident from which areas get funding or which projects get funding to how those projects are designed and built often reflect intentions to either divide or provide barriers to communities or to bring communities together.
In the 1990s, Washington, D.C.'s metro system opened the Green Line, with stops intentionally put in predominantly black neighborhoods, helping to revitalize many of those areas.
What does it mean when another dot gets added to this map and another community gets a rail stop, gets good access to mass transit?
It can have a transformative effect on a community. It means more opportunities to access jobs, to access education, to access friends and family, medical care, all the things that make life great.
The Biden administration says it is committed to closing the racial gap in mass transit. The White House infrastructure plan includes $85 billion to modernize mass transit. But even if Congress backs the administration's proposals, it will take years or even decades to create equity in the U.S. mass transit system. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Silver Spring, Maryland.